All right. Hello, all of our viewers. It is me, Patrice Danielle. I Date Daily blogger and Andre Hatchett coming to you tonight to talk a little bit about the complex that comes with women making more than men in the dating world today, or even in marriage. So we're going to talk a little bit about the complexes that come from both sides, both men and women, in this scenario. And Andre, I just want to start off by asking you, how do you feel about dating someone who makes more than you and marrying someone who makes more than you?
I'm totally fine with it. Actually, the majority of the women I date make more money than me. Probably like 7 out of 10 of them.
Wow.
I'm totally cool with it. I wouldn't do it if they had a problem with it and if they liked it. So if they have a problem with it, I wouldn't do it. If they like making more money than me, then I wouldn't do it either. Because sometimes women do it as a control thing. Mm-hmm. So they're the ones who like it. And if a woman has to fight herself internally to date somebody who makes less than them, they could take it out on you subconsciously and put to resent you. So
right.
I'm going to do either one of those coins.
So, like, what are some of the different things that would be an example to you of someone not liking it or fighting it subconsciously, and even someone who does like it?
All right, cool. I'll tell you an example of someone of the first one. So I was dating a woman one time. She made more money than me. Mm-hmm. And when we would fight, she would bring it up. But not about money. We would fight about me leaving the dishes in the sink or something stupid like that. And then I'm like, what the hell are we talking about this? And I realized that, we spoke about it. And she said it would be an adjustment for her. But I realized she is having to have to force the adjustment internally. And in her mind, man makes more. That's the way it should be, and that's cool. If that's a woman's standard, stick with your standards, ladies. But if you have to fight yourself for it, you can actually take out the resentment on the man subconsciously. So that's a pretty big example. So if you're fighting about something totally opposite, but they bring up that they make more money than you, or you don't make enough money to satisfy them, that's a clear indication. So it was never about sex. It was never about other things. It was the money thing. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And a woman who enjoys it. I haven't dated a woman who enjoys it. I dated a woman who was just, okay, whatever. It's cool. It is what it is kind of thing. And even though I date women who make more money than me, typically, I still usually pay for stuff. Like, I'm 60, 40, 70, 30, no matter what the dynamic is. Maybe we just can't go out as much. Whatever. So right. I still stick to my 60-40 rule at bare minimum.
Okay, so that's interesting because I, up until about 2 years ago, had never dated someone who made more than me. So I probably was in about three, pretty serious relationships where I made more than the guy. And I didn't realize until looking at it in hindsight that I actually did have my own complex with the situation. Oh. And, I think that the problem was that the people I was dating didn't even have the potential to make as much as me.
That's the thing.
So that's what threw me off, is not knowing if, the situation would ever change, right? And so when I did finally date someone who made more or as much as me, it felt good. It felt good to know that this person was going in the same direction as I was in life, that we could partner, that we could build, that we could grow, that I wasn't going to continue to grow and then would have to worry about, in the future, money taking a toll on our relationship or me being drained, while this person never really contributed as much as I did. So you saying that you stick with the 60-40, I think is important, because I don't think it really matters that a woman makes more than a man. It's just a matter of how the dynamics work. Like, how much is the man still contributing?
That's it. And also, I might not make as much on paper, but I have assets.
Right.
And I think that well, you as a woman could speak about this. Having assets might weigh out. So let's say you make 150 with Patrice, I make 75, but I have a house. Maybe that can bring me up to 90.
Right.
I have another house, maybe that can bring me up to 110. I have a business, maybe that can bring me up to 120. Not financially per se, but in your mind of submission or following my lead. So there are other attributes I think that go along with the equation rather than just the actual numbers. I think assets do play a large part in that whole dynamic as well.
Yeah, because it's like at the end of the day, what do you bring to the table? And a lot of times, the financial piece of what you bring to the table also equates to how much leadership you have in the relationship, right?
Yeah.
And a woman kind of wants a man to be able to be a leader in a sense. I guess maybe I'm traditional and some women would disagree with me, but, I want to be able to be led by a man. Yes, I'm independent and I can lead myself, but in a relationship, I don't mind letting the man lead. But at a certain point, if I'm the only one growing, I'm the only one who could be a leader. At least that's how I've always felt.
No, nothing wrong with that. Question now. So for the guy you dated who did make more than you or as much as you, did you find consciously or subconsciously that you could submit easier to him because of that?
I felt like I wanted to submit, but like he didn't take control of enough, or the people, several of them didn't take control of situations enough to where I could submit. It could be something as simple as trying to plan a trip, as trying to plan a date, as trying to plan anything, because their finances weren't up to par. They could never take the reins in doing things like that or planning things like that. And so I never felt like I could submit.
Mm-hmm. So, but how about for the guy who did make as much as you, though, or close to you? Did you find it easier to submit?
Absolutely.
And is it because of the financial thing or because of the overall package of the guy?
I think it was the overall package. But, I'm wondering, did that overall package come because of education? Did it come because of money? Did it come because of both? Does it, do all of these things go hand in hand? And I'm not one to say it has to be black and white, that you have to have a degree, that you have to make more than me, that it has to be 6 figures. But I think that a lot of different things end up going hand in hand with one another.
I believe that. That. So would you advise a woman to only date guys who make more than them, or
no?
Would be your response to your younger sister? Let's say to your younger sister, she's making 100, this guy's making 50. Would you give her any advice on what to do, what not to do, or would you just let her be?
I would, if she asked me for advice, I would tell her that she needs to look at the person's drive. And if that drive equates to, what she wants, being able to get her what she wants out of life, or if at the end of the day, the relationship is not going to add to her, then what is the purpose of it? If the relationship ended that day in which we were talking, if she would go on about her business and nothing would be lost except for a companionship, I don't think it's really worth it, right? If you are, supporting yourself, paying for everything, and nothing is really being added except conversation and, again, companionship, my personal belief is that it isn't worth it. And that's what I would tell her if she asked me for it, because I think eventually you get tired of that. But if, there was more intangible things that the guy was adding to, or bringing to the table, and she felt like she would be losing something should he leave, or even if, he was bringing finances to the table and it was, only out of his $50,000 a year, and she felt like she was going to be losing something, then, she should definitely hold on to it.
Gotcha. And what I would tell the ladies out there, if in your mind you have to force yourself to accept a guy making less money than you, I would think about being with that dude, because it's not fair for him, and it's not fair for yourself if you're going to take it out on him subconsciously. And for the brothers, I would tell the brothers, confront a lady who makes more than you and ask her very directly, do you have a problem with it? Here's what it is. And if there's any inclination of having a problem with it, I would think twice about being in the relationship.
Yeah, because to your point, you know, women can subconsciously have a problem with it.
Yeah.
And not even know, but every single thing they bring up is about money. And that's what was happening in one situation with me, where every argument turned into being about money. And it just was like, wait, this is really crazy. Like, why would we be arguing about money this much? And we don't even share accounts or anything. You know, it was me being worried, you know, about the future and about, you know, eventually would our status or situation change, you know, or would I end up being drained? So I think that's the complex that women carry. Now, what's interesting is I had a conversation with a couple friends a couple days ago, and a new perspective was brought to the table. And this perspective was that there are some men who are intimidated by women making more than them and tend to try to put a cap on how much the lady spends because it intimidates them for her to be spending as much.
The gift. I never thought about that, but that makes sense.
I had never thought about that.
That makes total sense because so if you buy me a Big Mac desktop computer, but I can only buy you an iPad,
right?
I might feel, wow, that makes sense. That does make sense.
Yeah.
That's probably not a bad thing, to be honest with you. That's probably not the worst thing in the world because it's confronting what can be an issue head on early on rather than allowing it to be a big issue down the line.
Right. And I mean, and this is in a situation where a woman, you know, is fine with being the breadwinner or contributing more or being the 60 portion of the 60-40, but still the man doesn't feel okay. And I guess I'm so used to people, I guess, trying to get over on each other nowadays, where I just feel like more men would probably be like, hey, you know, I finally met a girl who's going to pay more. Go ahead. So it was interesting to hear, you know, about the man who was a little insecure about it, I guess is what you would call it.
Yeah. I guess it makes sense. I've never thought about that. But it's attacking what could be a problem for him head on. So he knows the problem with him. So let's give him credit for acknowledging that it's a problem because that takes, you know, it takes some guts to do that. And he said, okay, let's have a cap on what you're doing because I can't do that. So let's keep it here because it won't affect my masculinity. I don't necessarily agree with that concept, but it makes sense. And I give credit for tackling the problem head on rather than let it build up and everyone's just yelling and screaming at each other down the line.
Right. So, audience, I'm interested in hearing, you know, in 2014, where women are CEOs, they're head of the boardroom, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're all of these things. Is it okay for a woman to make more than her man in a relationship or in a marriage? And ladies and fellas, how do you feel about it personally? Thanks, Andre, for coming on.
Anytime, Patrice.
All right, peace.
Later.